I still remember the exact moment my phone buzzed with that text, the one that shattered everything I'd spent 5 years building. Some people just aren't meant to be mothers. Enjoy my vacation pics. My name is Kimberly, and I was sitting in my car outside the fertility clinic when my sister Sandra's message came through. I just finished my consultation with Dr. Walsh, discussing my upcoming IVF cycle, the one I'd saved $50,000 for by working 2 jobs and living on rice and beans, the one that was supposed to finally make my dreams of motherhood come true. But when I opened my banking app to schedule the deposit, my stomach dropped. The account balance read $127.34. There must be some mistake, I whispered, refreshing the screen repeatedly. But the truth was right there in the transaction history. A transfer of $50,000 to Sandra Emerson Hicks, processed yesterday afternoon. My hands trembling, I called the bank. Yes, ma'am, the representative said. The transfer was authorized using your credentials. Your sister had access to your account as an emergency contact. I couldn't breathe. The world spun as more texts from Sandra flooded in. Photos of her lounging on a pristine beach, cocktail in hand. Thanks for funding our dream vacation, sis. Scott and I really needed this. Sandra, what have you done? I typed back, my fingers barely working. That money was for my IVF, my last chance. Oh, please, she replied instantly. You're 37. Maybe this is a sign to stop being so desperate. Some women aren't meant to have kids. Accept it and move on. I sat there, reading and rereading her words until my vision blurred. The cruelty wasn't surprising. Sandra had always been this way. Mom's favorite, the princess who could do no wrong. My phone rang. It was Virginia, my best friend. Kim, are you okay? You're late for coffee. She took it, I whispered. Sandra stole my IVF money. She what? Virginia's voice rose sharply. I'm coming to get you. Where are you? The clinic parking lot. Don't move. 20 minutes later, Virginia was pulling me into her arms while I sobbed. We'll fix this, she kept saying. We'll press charges. She can't get away with it. But we both knew she would. Sandra always did. Remember when she borrowed my college fund? I wiped my eyes. Mom said I was being selfish for not helping my sister pursue her dreams. Said I could always take out loans. Virginia's jaw tightened. Your mother enabled this. All of it. My phone buzzed again. Sandra had posted an Instagram story, her perfectly manicured hand holding a champagne flute against a sunset backdrop. The caption read, Living my best life. Sometimes the universe gives you exactly what you need. I can't breathe, I whispered. 5 years of overtime shifts, tutoring, living in that tiny apartment. Gone. Just gone. We're calling the police, Virginia declared, pulling out her phone. No. Something cold and hard crystallized in my chest. She used my credentials. The bank won't help. And you know Mom and Dad will side with her. They always do. Then what? I stared at Sandra's latest Instagram post, something shifting inside me. The sister who'd always needed my help, my money, my sacrifice. She'd finally gone too far. Nothing, I said quietly. For now, nothing. Virginia looked concerned. Kim, I mean it. I'm done trying to fix things with her. Done being the responsible one, the understanding one. I took a deep breath. She just killed the last bit of sisterly love I had left. You're scaring me a little, Virginia admitted. I managed a hollow laugh. Good, because I'm scaring myself. Later that night, alone in my apartment, I scrolled through Sandra's social media. Her perfect life, funded by my broken dreams. That's when I noticed something odd in her recent posts. Subtle hints about a special secret and big news coming soon. There was even a cryptic photo of baby shoes with the caption, Window Shopping. My phone buzzed with a text from our mother. Sandra's planning to share some exciting news this weekend. Family dinner on Sunday. You'll be there, right? She specifically asked for you to come. I typed back, wouldn't miss it, with trembling fingers, even as bile rose in my throat. Because if my suspicions were correct, Karma was about to serve up something far more interesting than Sandra's stolen beach vacation. And this time, I wouldn't be the understanding sister. This time, I'd be ready. I didn't make it to that family dinner. Instead, Sandra showed up at my door 3 weeks later, mascara streaking down her face, designer handbag clutched to her chest like a shield. "I need your help," she choked out. I stood in the doorway, not moving. "That's rich, considering the last time you needed help, you cleaned out my bank account." "Please, Kim," her voice cracked. "I'm pregnant." There it was, the confirmation I'd been waiting for. I studied her face, noting the slight swell beneath her expensive blouse. "Congratulations. I'm sure Mom and Dad are thrilled." Can I come in?" I stepped aside, watching as she settled onto my worn couch, the same one she'd mocked as shabby last Christmas. Her perfect makeup couldn't hide the dark circles under her eyes or the tremor in her hands. "There are complications," she whispered. "The baby. They found issues during the screening. I need specialized care, but Scott's company just laid him off. We lost our insurance." I walked to my kitchen, filling a glass with water. Not for her, for me. I needed something to do with my hands before I gave in to the urge to throw something. "How much?" I asked flatly. "The specialist alone is $15,000. Then there's the monitoring, the potential hospital stays." She swallowed hard. "We're looking at maybe $40,000. More if..." "If what?" "If I need emergency care. The doctor says I'm high risk." I let out a laugh that sounded more like a sob. $40,000. That's convenient. Almost exactly what you stole from me." "I know," she whispered. "I know what I did was awful. But this is different. This is a baby's life. And what was my IVF fund? A joke?" I set the glass down so hard water sloshed over the rim. "What were my dreams of having a child? When you texted me that some people aren't meant to be mothers, what exactly did you mean?" She flinched. "I was drunk. I was stupid. I'm sorry." "No, you're not sorry. You're desperate." I moved closer, watching her shrink back. "You're only here because you've run out of options. Have you blown through all that vacation money already?" Sandra's face crumpled. We had to use it for the down payment on the house, the one near Mom and Dad. They said it was perfect for a growing family." "Of course they did." I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "So you stole my money, bought a house, and now you need me to bail you out again." "Please," she whispered. "I'll pay you back. I promise." "Like you promised to pay back my college fund?" I shook my head. "Or the money you borrowed for your wedding. Or..." "I get it!" she snapped, a flash of the old Sandra breaking through. Then she caught herself, shoulders slumping. "I get it. I've been terrible, but this isn't about me anymore." I walked to my window, staring out at the parking lot of my apartment complex, the one I'd planned to leave once I had my baby. You know what the worst part was? Not the money. Not even that cruel text. It was realizing that my own sister could look at my deepest dream and decide it wasn't worth respecting. Silence stretched between us. Finally, Sandra spoke. "What do you want me to do?" I turned back to her. "What makes you think I want anything?" "Because I know that look." She wrapped her arms around herself. "You're going to help me, aren't you? But there are going to be conditions." "Smart girl." I sat down across from her. "Yes, I might help you. But first, you need to understand something. This isn't forgiveness. This isn't sisterly love. This is a transaction." "What kind of transaction?" "The kind where you learn exactly what it feels like to have someone else control your dreams." I leaned forward. "Are you ready to hear my terms?" Sandra's hand drifted to her stomach, protective. "I don't have a choice, do I?" "Oh, but you do." I smiled again, feeling that cold certainty settle in my chest. You can walk out that door right now. Go back to Mom and Dad. I'm sure they'll figure something out. They always do for you. She stayed put, tears sliding down her cheeks. Tell me your terms. Not yet. I stood up. First, I want you to text Mom. Tell her you came to see me. Tell her what you did with my money. All of it. Kim, do it now. I want to watch. With shaking fingers, Sandra pulled out her phone. As she typed, I saw our mother's response pop up almost immediately. Oh, sweetie, I'm sure your sister understands. Family helps family. Perfect, I whispered, more to myself than Sandra. Now we can begin. You want me to do what? Sandra's voice cracked as I laid out my first condition. A video confession, I repeated calmly. Full details of how you stole my IVF money, what you spent it on, and why you did it. Then you'll post it to your Instagram, Facebook, and send it to your work email list. I can't. She clutched her designer purse tighter. I'll lose my job. My friends? Your friends should know who they're really friends with. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Let's practice. Look at the camera and tell the truth. All of it. Virginia, who'd arrived halfway through our conversation, shifted uncomfortably in the corner. Kim, maybe this is going too far. No, I said firmly. This is exactly far enough. Start talking, Sandra. My sister stared into the camera lens, mascara-stained tears rolling down her cheeks. I accessed my sister's bank account using her emergency credentials. I stole $50,000 that she'd saved for IVF treatments. I spent it on a vacation and house down payment, then told her she wasn't meant to be a mother. And why did you do it? Sandra's voice became barely audible. Because I knew I could get away with it. Because I always have. Perfect. I stopped recording. Now do it again, but this time mention how long I worked to save that money. Kimberly, Virginia warned, this isn't you. You're right, I agreed. The old me would have already written Sandra a check, no questions asked. The old me would have swallowed her pain and played the supportive sister. But that Kimberly died the day she got that text message. Sandra looked between us, desperate. What else? What are your other conditions? I sat down across from her. Once the video is posted, you'll write a formal letter to your HR department admitting to financial fraud. You'll copy your boss, Kingsley. That's career suicide. Should have thought about that before committing actual fraud. I shrugged. But here's the thing. You do this, and I'll cover your first specialist appointment. That's $15,000. And the rest? She whispered. We'll discuss that after you follow through with part 1. I forwarded the practice video to her phone. You have 24 hours. Sandra left shortly after, clutching the paper where I'd written my demands. Virginia stayed behind, concern etched on her face. This isn't healing you, she said softly. It's not supposed to. I started washing the dishes Sandra had left untouched. It's supposed to teach her consequences. My phone buzzed. It was Scott, Sandra's husband. You're being cruel. She's pregnant and scared. I typed back, and I was childless and betrayed. Funny how that works. The next morning, Sandra's confession video appeared on her social media. She'd done it in one take, tears streaming down her face as she detailed her actions. The comments started rolling in immediately. OMG, how could you do that to your own sister? This is disgusting. I always knew your perfect life was fake. By afternoon, her boss Kingsley had received the HR letter. Sandra texted me a screenshot of his response. We need to discuss this immediately. My office, 9 a.m. tomorrow. Proof of the meeting, I texted back, and I'll transfer the specialist payment. You're destroying my life, she responded. No, I'm showing you what it feels like to lose everything you worked for. The difference is, you're getting something in return. I got nothing but a mocking text. Virginia called later that evening. Sandra's husband is talking about legal action. Says you're causing emotional distress to a pregnant woman. I laughed. Let him try. I have copies of everything. The bank transfers, her confession, That text message? Does he really want this to get messier? What's your endgame here, Kim? I stared at my reflection in the window, barely recognizing the woman I'd become. Justice, or maybe just the satisfaction of watching her perfect life crumble like mine did. My phone lit up with another text from Sandra. Meeting with Kingsley tomorrow confirmed. I'm on probation pending investigation. Mom's furious with you. Of course she is, I replied. But here's the thing, Sandra, Mom can't fix this for you. Only I can, and we're just getting started. I sent her the specialist payment confirmation, then added, by the way, that designer closet of yours, the one you're so proud of, start photographing everything. You're going to need it for phase 2. What do you mean? You'll see. Sweet dreams, sis. Don't forget to tag me in tomorrow's meeting update. I put my phone down, feeling that now familiar cold satisfaction settle in my chest. Because Sandra didn't know it yet, but her public humiliation was just the beginning. The fallout from Sandra's confession video was swift and merciless. Her carefully curated social media empire, all those perfectly filtered photos of luxury vacations and designer hauls, crumbled within days. Her followers turned from adoring fans to angry critics, each comment a reminder of her betrayal. How's work? I asked during our weekly update call, which I'd insisted on recording. They've moved me to a back office, Sandra's voice trembled, away from clients. Kingsley says my reputation issues make me a liability. Fascinating how actions have consequences, isn't it? Before she could respond, my phone buzzed with another call. Mom. I put Sandra on hold. What are you doing to your sister? Mom's voice crackled with rage. She's having panic attacks. The doctor says her blood pressure is dangerously high. Oh, now you're concerned about medical issues? I kept my voice eerily calm. Where was this concern when Sandra stole my fertility treatment money? That was different. She needed... What? I cut her off. What did she need so desperately that it justified destroying my dreams? She's your sister. And I was her sister when she cleaned out my account, when she mocked my infertility, when she... Stop being so dramatic, Mom snapped. You can always save up again. Sandra needs help now. I laughed, a hollow sound that seemed to surprise us both. You know what? You're right. Sandra needs help now, so I'll help, my way. I switched back to Sandra's call. The specialist appointment revealed complications, right? Yes, she whispered. They want me on bed rest, with in-home nursing care. That's expensive. Please, she begged. Insurance won't cover it. Scott's still unemployed. We can't afford... I'll cover half, I interrupted. Consider it interest on what you stole. Half won't be enough. The nurse alone is $4,000 a week. Then I suggest you start selling things. I paused, letting that sink in. All those luxury bags you love showing off? Those designer shoes? Time to liquidate. Sandra's breath hitched. But what? Isn't your baby's health worth more than your Gucci collection? The line went quiet, except for her muffled sobs. Finally, Scott's voice came through. He'd obviously been listening in. You heartless bitch, he snarled. You'd risk your own niece or nephew's life for revenge? Interesting choice of words, Scott. Wasn't Sandra risking my future children's lives when she stole my IVF money? Or do only her potential children matter? He hung up. 10 minutes later, Sandra texted, Fine, I'll sell everything. Happy now? Not yet, I replied, because you're not selling on eBay or to consignment shops. I have something more appropriate in mind. The next day, Virginia helped me set up a charity auction event at the women's shelter where I volunteered. You're really going to make her sell her things here? Where better? I arranged the auction flyers. All proceeds split between her medical care and the shelter's single mothers program. Poetic, don't you think? You've changed, Virginia observed. No, I've just stopped pretending to be okay with being everyone's doormat. My phone buzzed again. Another angry text from Mom. Sandra's crying in my kitchen, says you're forcing her to sell her things to poor people. Why can't you just help her quietly like a real sister would? Something inside me snapped. I hit call instead of texting back. Let me make something very clear, I said, when she answered. I stopped being a real sister the day Sandra decided my life savings meant less than her vacation. You want to know why I'm doing this? Because for 37 years, I watched you excuse her behavior. I watched you sacrifice my needs for her wants. Well, guess what? I'm done being the responsible one who fixes everything. It's Sandra's turn to sacrifice. But, no, you don't get to butt your way out of this. Your precious princess is finally facing consequences, and you can't stand it. Too bad. This is happening. I hung up before she could respond and turned to Virginia, who was staring at me with wide eyes. Feel better? She asked. Actually, yes. I picked up my phone as it buzzed with a new message from Sandra, a photo of her collapsed on Mom's couch, hooked up to a blood pressure monitor. Is this what you wanted? She'd written. To see me suffer? I typed back, no, Sandra. This is what I needed. For you to finally understand what it feels like to have someone else control your future. The auction is Saturday at 2 p.m. Don't be late. Then I added, oh, and wear something nice. You'll be modeling each piece before it's sold. Every single thing you bought while I was eating ramen to save for IVF. Your audience deserves to see exactly what my dreams were worth to you. The women's shelter's community room was packed. Sandra stood at the front, pale and shaking, as I took the microphone. Ladies, welcome to our special charity auction, I announced. Today's items come from a very privileged donor who's learning valuable lessons about karma and consequences. Sandra, show us the first piece. With trembling hands, she held up a red-bottomed Christian Louboutin heel. Size 37, she whispered. Retail $940. Purchased, I added cheerfully, the same week I was working overtime at the tutoring center to save for IVF. Starting bid is $200. The room buzzed with excitement as hands went up. Sandra flinched with each bid, watching her carefully curated collection sell for fractions of what she'd paid. Next up, I called out, a Chanel Classic flat bag. Purchased? When was it, Sandra? Oh, right, the day after you drained my account. Please stop, she whispered. What's that? Speak up for our bidders, sis. A young woman in the back raised her hand. Question. Why is she selling all this? I smiled. An excellent question. Sandra, would you like to explain? She gripped the podium, tears threatening to spill. I stole my sister's IVF savings. Now I'm pregnant with complications and need the money for medical care. The room went silent. Then another woman spoke up. Wait, you stole money that was meant to help your sister have a baby? Sandra nodded miserably. And now you need help with your own baby? Another nod. The woman whistled low. That's some serious karma right there. The auction continued. Each item came with a story. What Sandra had been doing while I saved, what she'd said when she took my money. By the third hour, she could barely stand. Getting tired? I asked during a break. Imagine how tired I was working 2 jobs for 5 years. I need to sit down, she mumbled. The baby. Fine, 10-minute break. But that Hermes collection isn't going to sell itself. Virginia appeared at my elbow. She doesn't look good, Kim. She'll survive, unlike my dreams of motherhood. The auction resumed. Near the end, I picked up the last Chanel bag, the newest one still with tags. This one's special, I announced, because instead of selling it, I'm giving it away. Sandra's head snapped up. What? I gestured to a teenage girl in the back row. Maria, come up here, please. A young woman, barely 18, made her way forward, cradling her infant. Maria's starting college next month, I explained. Full scholarship. She's been saving for textbooks while working nights at a diner. Today, she gets something nice for herself. I handed her the bag. Sandra made a choked sound as Maria hugged me, tears in her eyes. That bag was worth $7,000, Sandra hissed when the crowd dispersed. Funny how money means something different when you've earned it yourself. Scott burst through the door then, face red with anger. This ends now. You've humiliated her enough. Actually, I checked my notes. We still have her jewelry collection to go through. I'm taking her home, he growled, supporting Sandra's trembling form. And we're calling our lawyer. I held up my phone. Great. I'll send them the video confession Sandra made, along with bank records showing her fraud. Should make for an interesting case. You're enjoying this, Sandra whispered, watching me suffer. No more than you enjoyed sending me those vacation photos after stealing my money. I started packing up the auction records. By the way, we raised $32,000 today. Half goes to your medical care, half to the shelter's programs. Seems fair, don't you think? Scott helped Sandra toward the door, but I wasn't finished. Oh, and Sandra, the nursing care you need, it's going to cost more than what we raised today. A lot more. She turned back, face pale. What are you saying? I'm saying there's more to come, because that specialist you need, the one who handles high-risk pregnancies, he won't take partial payments. Haven't you done enough? Scott demanded. That depends, I replied coolly. Has Sandra learned enough? Because I have one final condition for covering the rest of her medical care. And trust me, she's not going to like it. What condition? Sandra asked, voice barely audible. I smiled, thinking of the guardianship papers my lawyer had drawn up. Let's discuss it tomorrow. For now, go home and rest. Think about everything you've lost today. As they left, Virginia touched my arm. The guardianship thing, are you sure? Absolutely. I watched Sandra's retreating form, because sometimes the best revenge isn't just taking something from someone, it's making them live with the consequences forever. The last of the auction attendees filed out, leaving me alone with the remnants of Sandra's perfect life scattered around the room. It felt like poetry, her carefully constructed facade stripped away, piece by expensive piece, just like she'd stripped away my dreams. You want what? Sandra's voice cracked as she stared at the legal documents spread across my kitchen table. Guardianship rights, I repeated calmly. If something happens to you during this high-risk pregnancy, I become the baby's legal guardian. Not Mom, not Scott, me. Scott slammed his hand on the table. This is insane. You can't just... Actually, I can. I slid forward a folder containing copies of Sandra's bank fraud, her confession video, and the HR complaints. Unless you prefer to handle these medical bills on your own. It's blackmail, he sputtered. No, it's insurance. I turned to Sandra. The specialist you need, Dr. Benson. His fee is $85,000 for the duration of your pregnancy. That's not counting hospital stays or emergency procedures. Still want to talk about blackmail? Sandra's hands trembled as she touched her growing belly. You want my baby? I want to ensure your child is taken care of if something goes wrong. Given your track record with a responsibility, I'd say that's reasonable. We'll find another doctor, Scott declared. Dr. Benson is the only high-risk pregnancy specialist in 3 states who handles your specific condition, I countered. But sure, go doctor shopping while Sandra's condition deteriorates. I'm sure that will work out great. The room fell silent except for Sandra's quiet sobs. Finally, she whispered, You're trying to steal my baby like I stole your chance to have one. No, Sandra. I'm ensuring that if anything happens to you, your child won't be raised by someone who thinks it's okay to destroy other people's dreams for a vacation. My phone buzzed. Mom calling again. I declined it. She's been crying for days, Sandra said, begging Dad to help with the medical bills. And? They remortgaged their house. But it's not enough. I laughed softly. Of course they did. They'd rather go into debt than see their precious princess face consequences. Scott pulled out his phone. I'm calling our lawyer. Perfect. Ask them how they feel about fraud charges while you're at it. I gathered the papers. You have 24 hours to decide. Dr. Benson needs an answer by Friday. You've changed, Sandra whispered. You've become cruel. No, I've become like you. Isn't it interesting how much you hate seeing your own tactics used against you? Later that evening, my doorbell rang. It was Sandra alone, looking exhausted. Where's Scott? I asked, letting her in. At Mom's. He's not handling this well. She sank onto my couch. The lawyer said we don't have a case, not with the evidence you have. Smart lawyer. Kim? She looked up at me, eyes red-rimmed. What happens if I sign? If I give you guardianship rights? Then I transfer the full payment to Dr. Benson tomorrow. You get the care you need. Your baby gets a chance. And if something happens to me, then I raise your child with the same dedication I would have raised my own. I sat across from her. The child I'll probably never have now, thanks to you. She flinched. I never thought. That's the problem, Sandra. You never think about anyone but yourself. She pulled out a pen with shaking hands. I'll sign. Not because of the blackmail, but because... She swallowed hard. Because you're right. I don't trust Scott to raise a baby alone, or Mom and Dad to do better with my child than they did with us. I watched as she signed each page, her tears falling onto the documents. One more thing, I said when she finished. The baby's middle name. I get to choose it. Why? Because every time you say your child's full name, I want you to remember what you did, what it cost you. She stood up, pressing one hand to her lower back. When did you become so cold? The day I read your text message about not being meant to be a mother. I gathered the signed papers. The payment will be sent to Dr. Benson in the morning. His office will call you to schedule your first appointment. As Sandra reached the door, she turned back. The baby. It's a girl. I felt something crack in my carefully constructed wall of ice. A girl? The daughter I dreamed of having. Good to know, I said quietly. Take care of her, while you can. After she left, I called Virginia. She signed, I told her. And how does victory taste? I stared at the guardianship papers, at Sandra's trembling signature. Like ashes, but at least they're her ashes this time, not mine. My phone lit up with a text from Sandra. I'm sorry for everything. I know it's too late, but I'm sorry. I didn't reply. Some wounds run too deep for apologies, and some victories feel hollow, even when you win. But at least now Sandra understood. Every dream has a price, and sometimes karma makes you pay it in full. The call came at 3:47 a.m. Sandra was in labor, 2 months early. Where's Scott? I demanded as I rushed into the hospital. Business trip, the nurse replied. We can't reach him. She's asking for you. I found Sandra in the delivery room, her face contorted in pain. The monitors beeped frantically, showing dangerous spikes in her blood pressure. Kim, she gasped, reaching for my hand. I'm scared. For a moment, I almost pulled away. Then I saw the terror in her eyes and remembered we were once sisters who shared everything, before money and jealousy poisoned us. I'm here, I said, gripping her hand. What does Dr. Benson say? Emergency C-section, she whispered. The baby. She's in distress. They need consent forms signed. A nurse appeared with a stack of papers. Are you family? I'm her sister, and I have medical power of attorney. I pulled out the guardianship documents I'd taken to carrying everywhere. Sign here, the nurse pointed. Quickly. As I signed, I noticed the blank space for the baby's name. Sandra saw where I was looking. Grace, she said softly. I want to name her Grace. I remembered our agreement about the middle name. Grace Catherine, I replied. Catherine, my middle name. Sandra nodded weakly. Okay, Mrs. Hicks. Dr. Benson appeared, fully scrubbed. We need to move now. Kim, Sandra clutched my arm. If something happens, don't. No, listen. If something happens, tell her I'm sorry. Tell her I was selfish and cruel, but I loved her, and... She swallowed hard. Tell her about you. about how her aunt was the strong one, the good one. Nothing's going to happen, I said firmly, but my voice shook. Promise me. I promise. Now fight, Sandra. Fight for her. They wheeled her away, leaving me alone in the hallway. I called Virginia, then our parents. Scott's phone still went straight to voicemail. Hours passed in the waiting room. Mom arrived, makeup perfect despite the early hour, and immediately started criticizing my handling of the situation. If you hadn't put her through all that stress with your revenge schemes— Don't! I cut her off. Don't you dare make this my fault. Where's Dad? Too upset to come. This is all too much for him. Of course it is, I muttered. He's never handled anything difficult in his life. Dr. Benson appeared then, still in surgical scrubs. His expression made my heart stop. The baby's stable, he said quickly. 4 pounds, 3 ounces. She's in NICU, but her vitals are strong. And Sandra? He hesitated. There were complications. She lost a lot of blood. We had to perform an emergency hysterectomy. She's in critical condition. Mom collapsed into a chair, wailing. I stayed standing. What are her chances? The next 24 hours are crucial. She's young, that's in her favor, but— He paused. You should prepare yourselves. I walked to the NICU viewing window while Mom called Dad. Through the glass, I could see a tiny bundle in an incubator. Grace Catherine, my niece, possibly my ward. She's beautiful, Virginia said softly, appearing beside me. Even with all the tubes. She looks like Sandra did as a baby, I whispered. I remember the day they brought her home from the hospital. I was so excited to be a big sister. You still are her big sister. Am I? Sometimes I wonder if I crossed a line, if I went too far. You did what you had to do to heal. Did I heal, though? Or did I just spread the pain around? A nurse approached us. Are you Kim? Your sister's awake. She's asking for you. I found Sandra in ICU, pale as the sheets around her, but alive. Her eyes flickered open as I approached. Grace, she whispered. She's perfect, small but fighting. Like her aunt. Sandra's hand found mine. The guardianship papers? Don't think about that now. No, listen. Keep them. Even if I make it. Keep them. I stared at her. What? You were right about everything. I'm not good with responsibility, with consequences, but you are. Her voice was fading. Promise me you'll be in her life. Teach her to be better than me. Sandra, promise me. I promise. She drifted off to sleep then, monitors beeping steadily. I stayed, watching my sister breathe, thinking about cycles of pain and healing, of revenge and redemption. My phone buzzed. Scott had finally called back. I stepped into the hallway to answer. Where the hell are you? I demanded. Vegas, he slurred. With friends? I closed my eyes, understanding washing over me. Some patterns repeat themselves, generation after generation. But maybe, just maybe, Grace Catherine would break the cycle. I walked back to the NICU window, pressing my hand against the glass. Hello, little one, I whispered. Your story's going to be different. I promise. She's getting so big, Virginia remarked, watching Grace crawl across my living room floor, 8 months old and already trying to take over the world. I scooped up my niece as she headed for the bookshelf, just like her mother at that age. Speaking of Sandra, my phone buzzed with her daily check-in text. How's she doing today? I sent back a photo of Grace attempting to eat a plastic block. Sandra's recovery had been slow, physically and emotionally. After Scott's Vegas escapade ended in divorce papers, she'd moved in with our parents, working remotely and attending therapy 3 times a week. Coming for her weekend visit tomorrow? I texted. Yes, Mom wants to come too. I hesitated before replying. My relationship with our mother had shifted since Grace's birth. The night Sandra coded in ICU, Mom had broken down in the hospital chapel, finally admitting her role in enabling Sandra's behavior all these years. Mom can come, I wrote back, but the rules still apply. Those rules had become our new normal. Sandra saw Grace every weekend, but always at my place, always under my terms. The guardianship papers remained in force, Sandra's idea, not mine. I need accountability, she'd said. I need to earn trust back. My doorbell rang. It was Dr. Walsh, my fertility specialist. Ready for your appointment? She asked, stepping inside. We'd arranged for home consultations after Grace started living with me part-time. Look who's here, I told Grace, who squealed at the familiar face. Dr. Walsh had become part of our strange, reconstructed family. Any side effects from the new protocol? She asked as we settled at my kitchen table. Some headaches, but nothing major. I watched Grace play with her blocks. The online support group you recommended has been helpful. Good. And you're sure about using the donor eggs? I nodded. After everything, I decided to try IVF again, this time with donor eggs to increase the success rate. The funding had come from an unexpected source. Women who'd followed Sandra's confession video had started a GoFundMe, raising over $75,000 for my treatment. Speaking of donors, Dr. Walsh pulled out some papers. I have an unusual request to discuss. She handed me a form. I recognized Sandra's signature at the bottom. Your sister came to see me, Dr. Walsh explained. She wants to donate her eggs for your IVF cycle. I stared at the form, emotions churning. But her hysterectomy? Didn't affect her ovaries. Medically, she's an excellent candidate. Dr. Walsh paused. She said it was the only way she could think to truly make amends. Grace crawled over, pulling herself up on my leg. I lifted her into my lap, breathing in her baby scent. What are you thinking? Dr. Walsh asked softly. I'm thinking about cycles, I replied, about how we break them. My phone buzzed again. Sandra, did Dr. Walsh talk to you? Please don't say no just because it's me offering. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but maybe I can give you this one thing back. Virginia picked up Grace, giving me space to think. Whatever you decide, she said, make sure it's for the right reasons. I looked at my niece, at her innocent face that somehow combined the best of both her mother and me. Then I picked up my phone. Come over tonight, I texted Sandra. We need to talk about this in person. Hours later, we sat on my couch, Grace asleep in her playpen nearby. Sandra looked better than she had in months. Therapy and accountability agreed with her. Why? I asked simply. Because you were right, she replied. About everything. About consequences. About responsibility. About what it means to truly love someone. She wiped her eyes. Watching you with Grace, seeing how you balance firmness with forgiveness, I want to help you have that for yourself. It won't fix what happened. I know. Nothing can fix that. But maybe it can be part of something new, something better. I studied my sister's face, remembering the cruel text she'd sent about me not being meant to be a mother. Life had proven her wrong in the most unexpected way. Okay, I said finally, but not because you need forgiveness, because Grace deserves to know that people can change, that love can heal even when it seems impossible. Sandra nodded, tears flowing freely now. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, I warned. There's one condition. Anything. If it works, if I have a baby, you have to be in their life. As an aunt, as family. But you have to keep doing the work. Keep earning trust. I promise, she whispered. For Grace. For your baby. For us. Grace stirred in her sleep, making those tiny baby sounds that had somehow healed parts of me I thought were broken forever. I reached for Sandra's hand. Some people are meant to be mothers, I said softly. Sometimes they just need help remembering who they really are.
Get out. My son deserves better than you. Linda, my mother-in-law, Shavu. She pointed at the door, her face red with anger. I stood still, one hand on my pregnant belly, feeling my baby move inside me. "I know what you did with that mechanic. Everyone saw you," she yelled. "My James needs a loyal wife, not a cheater carrying another man's child." I stayed calm. I was 7 months pregnant, and I knew Linda would do something like this. She had tried to break up my marriage since James and I got engaged 3 years ago. "Linda," I said softly, "think about what you're doing." "My name is Anna Mitchell. I'm 29, and this was my worst nightmare, being accused of cheating while carrying my first baby. But I wasn't going to cry or beg." "Don't Linda me," she snapped, grabbing my wedding photo from the mantel. "I have proof. Pictures of you meeting him every Tuesday for 3 months. Did you think no one would notice?" I almost laughed. Those Tuesday meetings, they were with Dr. Marcus Thompson, a prenatal genetics specialist. But Linda had already decided I was guilty. "James believes me," she smirked. "I showed him everything. He's filing for divorce right now." That made me pause. James and I had tried for this baby for 2 years. He had been so happy, painting the nursery and reading parenting books. I couldn't believe he would turn on me so quickly, but Linda had always controlled him. "Where is James?" I asked. "I want to hear it from him." "He can't even look at you," she said. "He's staying with me until you leave. This is his house. You have 1 hour to pack." I took a deep breath as my baby kicked again. "All right, Linda, I'll pack. But first," I reached into my purse and pulled out an envelope. "You should see this." She snatched it and tore it open. Inside was an appointment card for Dr. Thompson and his business card. For a second, she hesitated, then said, "This proves nothing. You could be seeing him and the mechanic." I smiled. "Check your mail tomorrow, Linda. You'll find the results interesting." "What results?" she asked, her confidence slipping. "The DNA test," I said. "The one proving this baby is James's. The one explaining why I've been seeing a genetics specialist. The one showing why this child might be your only grandchild." Her face paled. "What do you mean, only grandchild?" "I mean," I said, "James has a genetic condition. It made getting pregnant difficult. That's why I needed special care. But you never bothered to check your own family's medical history." She was silent, processing the truth. James's father had died young, and there had always been rumors of heart problems in the family. Linda had ignored them. "You're lying," she whispered, but she didn't sound sure. "Am I?" I asked, walking upstairs. "Like I said, check your mail. And maybe call James. Tell him to hold off on those divorce papers." For the next hour, I packed. Downstairs, I heard Linda on the phone, her voice rising and falling. She was panicking, trying to fix the mess she had created. As I loaded my bags into my car, my phone buzzed. A message from James. "Where are you?" "Mom's saying something about DNA tests." I didn't reply. He had believed his mother without even talking to me. Tomorrow, he would know the truth. And then we'd have a very different conversation. I drove to my sister Sarah's house. As I pulled into her driveway, my baby kicked again. Tomorrow, the DNA results would prove everything. Sarah met me at the door. "Are you okay?" she asked. I hugged her. It went just as expected. Linda fell for it completely. "And the test results come tomorrow?" "Yes," I said, settling onto her couch. "And with them, the truth about James's genetic condition. The one Linda has been ignoring for years." Sarah handed me a cup of tea. "And James? Has he called?" I checked my phone. 3 missed calls, 5 texts, all from him. "He's trying now," I said. "But he needs to sit with this overnight. Tomorrow, when the truth comes out, we'll see if he's finally ready to stand up to his mother." As I lay in bed that night, feeling my baby move, I thought about trust, family, and control. Linda had always seen me as a threat. Tomorrow, she would learn that the real threat wasn't me, it was the truth. And this time, she wouldn't be able to escape it. The morning brought a flurry of texts and calls from James. I let them go to voicemail, knowing timing was everything. At precisely 9:30 a.m., my phone lit up with a call from Dr. Thompson's office. "The results have been delivered," his assistant confirmed. "Both copies, one to your mother-in-law's address and one to your husband's office." I thanked her and settled in to wait. Sarah brought me breakfast, but I could barely eat. Despite my confidence in the plan, my stomach was in knots. "How long do you think before the explosion?" Sarah asked, watching me pick at my toast. As if on cue, my phone erupted with Linda's ringtone. I put it on speaker. How dare you? Linda's voice trembled with rage and something else. Fear. These results. This can't be true. You falsified them. Dr. Thompson is one of the most respected genetic specialists in the country, I replied calmly. Are you suggesting he risked his medical license to help me fake test results? But James, he can't be, she couldn't even say it. Can't have a genetic heart condition, the same one that killed his father. The one you've been denying exists. I let the words hang in the air. The condition that makes this pregnancy high risk and required those Tuesday appointments you were so suspicious about. The line went quiet except for Linda's rapid breathing. I could picture her standing in her pristine living room, clutching those papers, her perfectly maintained world crumbling around her. Does James know? She finally whispered. He should be reading his copy right now. I hung up, hands shaking slightly. Sarah squeezed my shoulder in support. The next call came within minutes. James. Anna, his voice was rough, like he'd been crying. I need to see you, please. I closed my eyes, fighting back tears. I'm at Sarah's. Can I come over? Now. I looked at Sarah, who nodded. Yes. 20 minutes later, James's car pulled into the driveway. Through the window, I watched him sit there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel, the manila envelope visible on his passenger seat. When he finally came to the door, he looked like he aged years overnight. Sarah let him in and quietly disappeared upstairs, giving us privacy. Why didn't you tell me? He asked, standing awkwardly in the living room. Tell you what, James? That I was seeing a genetic specialist? That our baby needed extra monitoring? Or that your mother was following me, taking pictures and building a case to destroy our marriage? He flinched. I should have talked to you first. When Mom showed me those pictures, you should have talked to me about a lot of things. I cut in. Like the fact that your father's death wasn't just a heart attack. Like the symptoms you've been having but ignoring because your mother insisted nothing was wrong. James sank onto the couch, the fight draining out of him. She always said Dad's death was unexpected. That our family was healthy. When the doctor first suggested genetic testing during our fertility treatments, Mom said it was unnecessary. And you believed her because she's your mother and mothers don't lie, right? I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. Even when Dr. Thompson confirmed the condition, even when he explained the risks to our baby, you still couldn't stand up to her. I was scared, he admitted quietly. Scared of having the same thing that killed Dad. Scared of passing it to our child. It was easier to pretend Mom was right. I sat beside him, placing his hand on my belly just as our baby kicked. Our child will be fine. That's what those Tuesday appointments were for. Monitoring, preparing, making sure we have a plan. But James, we can't keep living in your mother's world of denial. The pictures, he started, were of me entering a medical building. Did your mother bother to check what kind of doctors worked there? Or did she just spin her story and expect you to believe it? He hung his head. I let her manipulate me, again. And I almost lost you both because of it. Almost, I agreed. But now you have a choice to make, because I won't raise our child in this environment. I won't watch you choose your mother's lies over our family's health. James pulled out his phone, where multiple missed calls from Linda flashed on the screen. Without hesitation, he turned it off. I choose you, he said firmly. You and our baby. Mom will have to accept that things are going to change. I leaned against him, feeling some of the tension of the past 24 hours ease. She won't make it easy. No, he agreed, but I'm done letting her control us with lies. We'll face this condition together. Take all the precautions we need. No more hiding. As if in agreement, the baby kicked again, making us both smile. There would be more battles ahead. Linda wouldn't give up her control easily. But for the first time, I felt like James and I were truly united against her manipulation. Sarah came downstairs, carrying a tray of tea. Everything okay down here? I looked at James, saw the determination in his eyes, and nodded. Getting there. My phone buzzed with another call from Linda. This time, James reached over and declined it. Let her wait, he said. We have more important things to focus on. Linda's reaction to being cut off was nuclear. Over the next week, she escalated from constant calls to showing up at Sarah's house, screaming about being denied access to her son. Each time, James calmly asked her to leave, making it clear he wasn't playing by her rules anymore. You've poisoned him against me, she wailed during her third attempted visit. My own son. No, Linda, I said from behind James. The truth did that all by itself. We'd already arranged to meet with Dr. Thompson as a family, including Linda, if she chose to attend. To our surprise, she showed up, though her perfectly maintained appearance couldn't hide her obvious distress. Dr. Thompson laid out everything clearly: James's genetic condition, the risks, the management plan for both him and the baby. Linda sat rigid in her chair, flinching at each mention of hereditary factors. If this had been caught earlier, Dr. Thompson explained gently, we could have started preventive treatments for James years ago. However, it's not too late to begin now. My husband. Linda's voice cracked. Could he have been saved if we'd known? The silence in the room was deafening. Early intervention significantly improves outcomes, Dr. Thompson said diplomatically. But we need to focus on the present. Your son and grandchild need proactive care. For the first time since I'd known her, Linda looked her age. The carefully constructed facade of perfection crumbled as she faced the consequences of her years of denial. I thought if I didn't acknowledge it, it wouldn't be real, she whispered. After losing your father, James, I couldn't bear the thought of you having the same condition. James reached over and took my hand. But by denying it, you almost cost me my family, Mom. Anna was trying to protect our baby, and me, while you were trying to destroy her. Linda turned to me, tears streaming down her face. I was so convinced you were betraying James, I never considered that I was fighting for his life. I finished. For our child's future. She nodded, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Over the next month, things began to shift. James started his treatments and Linda, perhaps seeking redemption, threw herself into researching the condition. She forwarded articles, joined support groups, and even organized her own medical screening. The day we found out we were having a little girl, Linda was surprisingly subdued. I want to apologize, she said after the ultrasound. Not just for the accusations, but for everything. I've spent years trying to control everything around me because I was terrified of losing James like I lost his father. Instead, I almost drove him away. I studied her face, seeing genuine remorse. Fear makes us do terrible things sometimes, I conceded. But moving forward, we need honesty. Complete honesty. And boundaries, James added firmly. We're happy to have you in our lives, Mom, but as grandma, not as the decision maker. Linda nodded, reaching out tentatively to touch my belly. I'd like that, to just be grandma. As my due date approached, Linda surprised us by maintaining her distance while still offering support. She helped with nursery preparations but asked before making any decisions. She shared her experiences but acknowledged when James and I chose different approaches. The night I went into labor, she sat quietly in the waiting room, respecting our wishes to have this time to ourselves. When complications arose, ones we were prepared for thanks to Dr. Thompson's monitoring, she remained calm, trusting in the medical team we carefully selected. After 18 hours, our daughter Emma Grace entered the world perfectly healthy despite the challenging delivery. When Linda finally held her, the tears that fell weren't about control or fear, but pure joy. She's beautiful, Linda whispered, gently touching Emma's tiny fingers. And she'll be strong, like her mother. I watched them together, remembering the screaming woman who kicked me out just months ago. We all will be, I said, as a family. 2 months later, we gathered for Emma's first set of genetic screening tests. Linda held my hand as we waited for results, no longer denying the importance of knowing, of being prepared. Everything looks good, Dr. Thompson announced, smiling. We'll continue monitoring, but she's doing wonderfully. Later that evening, as I watched Linda gently rocking Emma, James came up behind me. Thank you, he said softly. For what? For not giving up, for fighting for us, even when I didn't know we needed fighting for. I leaned back against him, remembering that terrible night when Linda had thrown me out. Sometimes the hardest battles are the ones that force us to face the truth. Linda looked up, catching our conversation. And sometimes the people we think are our enemies are actually our saviors, she added quietly. Emma cooed in her arms, oblivious to the journey that had brought us here. She would grow up knowing her medical history, understanding the importance of prevention and monitoring. But more importantly, she would grow up in a family that had learned the value of truth over denial, of unity over control. Well, Linda said, standing to place Emma in her bassinet, I should head home. Unless you need anything. We're good, Mom, James replied, hugging her. See you Sunday for dinner? She nodded, gathering her things without trying to reorganize anything or offer unwanted advice. At the door, she paused. I'm grateful, she said simply, for second chances. As we watched her drive away, I thought about how life's biggest challenges often bring unexpected gifts. In fighting to protect my child, I'd helped heal a family. In standing firm against Linda's manipulation, I'd given her the opportunity to become the mother and grandmother she needed to be. Sometimes the happiest endings come not from winning the battle, but from helping everyone find peace after the war. Margaret slammed her hands on the table, making the crystal glasses shake. You're nothing but a gold digger taking advantage of my son, she shouted, her voice echoing through the dining room. In an instant, our peaceful family dinner turned into chaos. I'm Olivia, 29 years old, and I was watching my mother-in-law of 3 years completely lose control in front of everyone. The carefully prepared Sunday roast sat untouched as Margaret continued her rant. Mom, please, my husband James tried to interrupt, but she silenced him with a sharp wave of her manicured hand. No, I've kept quiet long enough. She grabbed my plate and threw it across the table, sending food flying. I want you out of my house and away from my son. Now, I stayed calm, though my heart pounded. I had learned that reacting only gave Margaret more power. The rest of the family, James's sister Emma, her husband, and their elderly Aunt Martha, sat in stunned silence. I have proof, Margaret declared, pulling out her phone. Those secret meetings, those long phone calls, I hired someone to follow you. James looked up in shock. You did what? Margaret shoved the phone across the table. Look, meeting strange men at cafes, visiting fancy hotels in the middle of the day. She's either cheating or running some kind of scam. I almost laughed. Those meetings were with real estate agents and financial advisors. I had been quietly investigating suspicious money movements in Margaret's charity foundation, the one she used to maintain her social status. Margaret, I said, standing up. Be careful throwing around accusations. Are you threatening me? She snapped. Not at all. Just suggesting you focus on your own affairs. I let the words sink in. For a moment, I saw something flash in her eyes. Fear, maybe? Then it was gone, replaced by anger. Get out. Now, she screamed. I turned to James, hoping he would finally stand up for me, but he stared at his plate. Aren't you going to say anything? I asked. He hesitated. Maybe you should go. Just until Mom calms down. And that was it, the final betrayal. I grabbed my purse and nodded. Okay, James, if that's what you want. Margaret smirked. We all know you only married James for his money anyway. I walked to the door, then turned back. You seem very concerned about James's money. Maybe we should talk about the Henderson Foundation's finances sometime. Margaret's face turned pale. What about the foundation? James asked, subtly paying attention. Nothing. Margaret snapped. She's just trying to cause trouble. I didn't wait for more. I walked out into the cool evening air, hearing Margaret spin her story behind me. She would paint herself as the loving mother protecting her son from a scheming wife. What she didn't know was that I had been preparing for this moment for months. Every suspicious transfer, every hidden transaction, I had documented everything. Before meeting James, I worked in forensic accounting, something Margaret had forgotten in her rush to label me a gold digger. I got into my car and made a call. Hey, David. Yeah, it happened. She took the bait. Start the audit tomorrow. David, an old colleague, had been waiting for my signal. Margaret's need for control had finally led her into a trap of her own making. I drove to a small apartment I had secretly rented months ago. Margaret had been getting more aggressive, and I had known this day would come. Now I knew why. Her lies were catching up with her, and she needed me gone before I could expose her. As I settled into my new space, my phone buzzed with messages from James. Mom's really upset. Maybe give her time to cool off. Where are you staying? I ignored them. Let him worry. Let him sit in his mother's house, eating her food, listening to her lies. The truth would come out soon enough. I walked to my home office and stared at the web of transactions pinned to my wall. 3 years of watching, 6 months of investigating, all leading to this moment. Margaret thought she had won tonight, but she had no idea what was coming. Tomorrow would be very interesting. This morning I woke up to 17 missed calls, 5 from James, 8 from Margaret, 3 from Emma, and 1 from Aunt Martha. I ignored them all, made myself some coffee, and watched the sunrise from my apartment window. By 9 a.m., my phone rang again. It was David. "It's done," he said. "The audit team arrived at the foundation 30 minutes ago. You should have seen Margaret's face when they walked in with their briefcases." I smiled, sipping my coffee. "Let me guess." She tried to stop them. Tried and failed. The board members you contacted last night had some serious questions about those offshore transfers. They're not leaving without answers. Perfect. Phase 1 was complete. Just then, James called again. This time I answered. "Where are you?" he demanded. "Mom's freaking out. Auditors are at the foundation, and she says you're behind it." "Am I?" I kept my voice even. "Isn't it normal for a charity to go through audits?" "Olivia, stop. What's going on?" "Maybe you should ask your mother about the Henderson Foundation's records, or about the money that went missing from the Children's Hospital Fund." Silence. Then finally, "You're lying." But he didn't sound convinced. "Check her office computer," I said. "Password is your birthday. Look for a folder called Personal Projects. Everything you need is there." I hung up before he could respond. James had spent his life taking the easy way out, letting his mother control everything. Now he had to face the truth. Around noon, Emma knocked on my door. I wasn't surprised. She had always been smart enough to keep a spare key to her mother's filing cabinet. "I found the documents," she said quietly. "The missing hospital funds. Did you know all along?" I stepped aside, letting her in. She looked pale, shaken. "I started suspecting 6 months ago," I admitted. "Why didn't you say anything? Would you have believed me over your mother?" She sat down, running her hands through her hair. "No, probably not. God, Olivia. She stole from sick children. She used foundation money for her shopping, her vacations, and made sure everyone saw her as a generous philanthropist while doing it." Emma swallowed hard. "The hospital wing, the one in Dad's memory. She used that money to buy her beach house, didn't she?" I nodded. Their father had left the foundation in Margaret's care, trusting her to do good. Instead, she had drained its accounts to fund her lifestyle. My phone buzzed. A message from David. Systematic fraud over 3 years. Board voting to involve authorities. And trying to destroy documents. Too late for that. I had copies of everything. Emma's voice was barely above a whisper. "She's going to lose everything, isn't she? The foundation, her reputation, probably her freedom." She looked at me, eyes filled with something between sadness and realization. "And James? Did you do this to hurt him too?" I turned to the window. "I did this because it was right. Your mother stole from people who needed help, all while calling me a gold digger." Emma let out a slow breath. "James went to the foundation this morning. After the auditors arrived. I've never seen him so angry. At me? At Mom. He caught her trying to delete files. That's when he finally understood." My phone buzzed again, Margaret. I declined the call. Emma sighed. "She's been calling you all morning. Begging, threatening. She wants you to stop the audit." "It's too late." "I know." Emma stood. "I should get back. The board wants to meet with the family. Will you come home?" Home. That word didn't feel right anymore. "Not yet," I said. "James needs to figure some things out first." After she left, I sat at my desk, preparing the final step. Margaret had built her life on lies and stolen money. Now the truth was coming for her. My phone buzzed again. A text from James. "I'm sorry. I should have listened. Can we talk?" I stared at the message for a moment, then set my phone aside. Some conversations could wait. There was still work to be done. Margaret thought she had won when she threw me out of her house. She had no idea she had just set everything in motion. Tomorrow, the board would decide the foundation's future, and Margaret would finally learn sometimes the people you underestimate are the ones you should fear the most. 3 months later, I sat in a courtroom and watched as Margaret was led away in handcuffs. The judge had been firm, 8 years in prison for fraud and embezzlement. Her expensive clothes and perfect hair couldn't hide the defeat on her face. "The court finds the defendant's actions especially terrible," the judge had said. "These funds were meant for children's medical care." James sat 2 rows behind me, his head down. He hadn't moved back in with his mother after that night. Instead, he had done something I never expected. He finally stood up for himself. She's controlled me my whole life, he admitted to me a month after the truth came out. I let her because it was easier than fighting. And I let her hurt you because I was too weak to stop her. I'm sorry, Olivia. I know that's not enough, but I'm trying to be better. The foundation was under new leadership. Emma, surprisingly, had stepped up to fix its reputation. She worked hard to regain the trust of donors and make sure everything was done right this time. As people left the courtroom, Aunt Martha caught my eye. She had been the first family member to reach out after Margaret's crimes were exposed. I always knew that woman was trouble. She had told me over tea. The way she treated you, it wasn't right. But you, my dear, you handled it beautifully. The media had a field day with the story. Prominent philanthropist exposed by daughter-in-law. Margaret's carefully crafted image crumbled as every detail of her fraud came to light. The missing hospital funds, the fake charity events, the offshore accounts, it all showed just how greedy she had been. Outside the courthouse, James walked up to me. "Can we talk?" We went to a nearby coffee shop. For a while, we just sat there, watching people pass by outside. "The house is sold," he finally said. "Mom's beach house too. The money is going back to the foundation." I nodded. "Emma told me she's doing a great job." "She is." He turned his coffee cup in his hands. "I've been seeing a therapist, trying to understand why I let Mom control me for so long. Why I didn't stand up for you. And I'm learning. About boundaries, about being my own person. I know it's too late for us, but I wanted you to know what you did, exposing the truth. It set us all free in a way. I thought about everything that had happened in the past 3 months, the investigations, the media frenzy, the family drama. In the end, it hadn't been about revenge. It had been about doing what was right. The hospital wing, I said. The one meant to honor your dad. They're finally building it." James smiled, though there was sadness in his eyes. "With the recovered funds. Dad would have liked that." As we left the coffee shop, Emma called. "They found more documents in Mom's storage unit. Looks like she was stealing from Dad's company even before he died." "Are you okay?" I asked. "Yeah, no, but I will be. We all will be." She paused. "Thank you, Olivia, for being braver than all of us." That evening, I stood in my real apartment, the one I had returned to after everything was over. The wall where I had once pinned all my evidence was empty now, except for a single framed photo. James's father at the groundbreaking ceremony of his first hospital project. He looked happy, kind, the opposite of the woman he had married. My phone buzzed. A message from David. "Foundation board meeting tomorrow. They want you to help with new security measures." I smiled. Things were so different now. Margaret had thought that throwing me out of her house would protect her secrets. Instead, it had led to her downfall. James and I would never be together again. Too much had happened. But something good had come from all of this, the truth, justice, and the chance to make a real difference. As I got ready for bed, another message came through from Aunt Martha. "You did good, girl. Sometimes the hardest thing is standing up for what's right, even when it costs us everything." But I hadn't lost everything. I had gained something more important, the knowledge that one person can make a difference. Margaret's lies were over, and in their place, something honest could finally grow. Tomorrow, I would help rebuild the foundation and make sure no one could ever steal from it again. But tonight, I looked at my reflection and smiled, free at last. Sometimes, getting kicked out of a house is just the beginning of finding your way home. Anna sat at the dinner table, trying to stay calm as her sister-in-law, Jessica, sneered at her. "You're just a placeholder, Anna," Jessica said, swirling her wine. "My brother would never legally marry someone like you." Anna glanced at the wine, wondering if it would stain the white tablecloth. The room fell silent, except for a few awkward coughs. Her husband David spoke next. "Jessica's right," he said, holding another woman's hand. "His new girlfriend, Sarah. What you and I had was just convenient. Sarah and I have something real." Anna took a sip of wine, watching as her mother-in-law, Margaret, smiled at Sarah. The same woman who had spent years criticizing Anna was now welcoming her husband's mistress like a future daughter-in-law. "Interesting," Anna finally said. Her calm tone unsettled them. They had expected tears, begging, or anger. But not this. That's all you have to say. Jessica pushed. David is leaving you. Anna wiped her lips with her napkin and smiled slightly. Would you like me to act surprised? Devastated. That would make you happy, wouldn't it? David frowned. This attitude is exactly why things didn't work out between us. Sarah understands family loyalty. Anna almost laughed. Loyalty? The same loyalty David had when he cheated? The same loyalty Jessica had when she covered for him. Margaret jumped in. Speaking of loyalty, she said, pretending to sound kind, I hope you understand that the house stays with David. Since you two were never officially married, you don't have any claim to it. They all looked so confident, so sure they had won. David had told his family he never legally registered their marriage, thinking it protected him. Anna reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. It's amazing what you can do online these days, she said, scrolling through her messages. Banking, shopping, registering a marriage. The room went silent. David's fork dropped. What are you talking about? He asked, his smugness gone. Oh, nothing, Hannah said, standing up. Just that while you were busy with Sarah, I was making sure our marriage was legally registered. All I needed was the signed certificate from our wedding. And, well, you signed the paperwork 6 months ago without reading it. Jessica's face turned pale. You're lying. David was always too busy to read what he signed, Anna replied. Every morning, I gave him documents for work, and he just signed them all without looking. David jumped up, knocking over his chair. You tricked me. That's illegal. Actually, it's not, Anna said, grabbing her purse. Oh, and about the house. You might want to check whose name is on the deed. You weren't the only one making plans. As she walked out, chaos erupted. Jessica yelled, Margaret demanded proof, and David frantically called his lawyer. This isn't over. Jessica screamed. Anna turned back with a smirk. You're right, it's just beginning. She looked at David. Make sure to read the divorce papers carefully this time. The door clicked shut behind her. As she got into her car, she texted her lawyer. It's done. They fell for it. Move to phase 2. The reply came instantly. Everything's ready. They won't know what hit them. Anna smiled as she started the car. They had underestimated her. They thought she was a quiet, obedient wife. But before she met David, she had spent 5 years working in contract law. And now they were about to learn exactly what that meant. The next morning, I sat in Maria's office, going over our strategy. My phone buzzed nonstop with messages from David and his family. I ignored them, focusing on the legal documents in front of me. They've already contacted their lawyer, Maria said, sliding a paper toward me. They're claiming coercion and fraud, just as we expected. I scanned the document. Let me guess. They're saying David didn't realize he signed the marriage papers? Exactly, Maria said with a smirk. But they haven't found the video yet. Ah, the video. Our home security cameras had caught David bragging to Jessica about his plan. How he never registered our marriage, so I have no claim to anything. That recording would be very useful in court. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from Margaret. You devious little snake. We trusted you. Maria pulled up another document. They've also filed for an emergency hearing to contest the house ownership. Seems they finally checked the records. I remember the day I transferred the house into my name. David had been too distracted by Sarah to notice the paperwork I slipped into his daily stack. Thanks to the power of attorney he had once signed without reading, I had full control. A knock at the door interrupted us. Maria's assistant entered with an envelope. This just arrived from the courthouse. The emergency hearing is set for 3 days from now. Perfect, Maria said, checking the details. That gives us time to prepare our surprise. The surprise was months in the making, a detailed file of every lie, every transaction, and most importantly, proof that David had been stealing from his company to fund his lavish lifestyle. Just then, my phone lit up with a message from Jessica. David is devastated. How could you do this to him, to our family? I laughed. Family. The same family that had treated me like an outsider. The same family that cheered when David replaced me with Sarah. Maria's voice pulled me back. Should we send the evidence about the stolen company funds? I nodded. Send it to the board first. Let them deal with him. By late afternoon, everything was falling apart for David. His company suspended him. Sarah, sensing trouble, had started avoiding him. Jessica, who had been so smug, was now scrambling to delete incriminating social media posts. That evening, I pulled into my driveway, my house now, not his, and saw David waiting on the porch. He looked exhausted, his confidence gone. "We need to talk," he said as I approached. "Actually, we don't," I replied. "If you need something, speak to my lawyer." "Come on, Anna," he pleaded. "This isn't like you. We can work something out." I stopped and looked him in the eye. "You're right, I'm not usually like this. But I protected myself from someone who wanted to leave me with nothing." "I would have taken care of you," he insisted. "Like you took care of our marriage?" I shook my head. "Instead of being honest, you plotted behind my back." His expression hardened. "You tricked me into signing those papers." "No, David," I said calmly. "I just let you think you were tricking me." I stepped past him and unlocked the door. "Now please leave before I call the police. This is my property, after all." At that moment, my phone buzzed with an email from Maria. The subject line read, "Board meeting concluded. Verdict attached." I smiled. I didn't need to open it to know what it said. David's carefully built life was crumbling around him. "This isn't over," he called as I shut the door. I glanced at my phone and whispered, "You're right. It's just beginning." The house felt different, lighter. Free, I walked through the rooms thinking about the changes I wanted to make. This place was mine now, and I had plans for it. Then, another message popped up, this one from Sarah. "I didn't know about any of this. He told me you two were already separated." I left it unanswered. Sarah's realization about David was her problem now. Tomorrow was the emergency hearing, but I wasn't worried. Maria and I had prepared for every excuse, every lie, every attempt to make me the villain. But this wasn't about revenge. It was about justice. I settled into my favorite chair by the window, watching the sunset. For the first time in months, I felt at peace. The next phase was about to begin, and I was ready. The emergency hearing arrived with all the drama I'd expected. David's family filed into the courtroom like a united front. Margaret, Jessica, and even Sarah lingering in the back row. Their confidence lasted exactly 12 minutes. That's how long it took Maria to present our evidence. First came the video footage, David and Jessica plotting in our living room, discussing how to keep the marriage unofficial. Their faces paled as their own voices echoed through the courtroom. "She'll never know," David had said on screen. "We'll just keep stringing her along until I'm ready to leave." Next came the financial records. Every suspicious transaction, every misappropriated fund meticulously documented. The judge's expression grew increasingly stern as the evidence mounted. But the final blow, that came from an unexpected source. "Your Honor," Maria announced, "we'd like to call Sarah Mitchell to the stand." The look of sheer panic on David's face was almost comical. Sarah, who'd been served with a subpoena the previous day, walked to the witness stand like someone heading to their own execution. "Ms. Mitchell," Maria began, "could you tell the court about the conversation you had with Mr. Harrison on March 15th regarding his marriage status?" Sarah glanced nervously at David before answering. He told me he'd never legally register his marriage to Anna. Said it was his way of protecting himself. And did he mention what would happen to his wife when he left her?" Sarah's voice trembled. "He said she wouldn't get anything. That was the plan all along." The courtroom erupted in whispers. I caught Jessica frantically texting, probably trying to salvage what she could of their crumbling defense. "Your Honor," David's lawyer interjected, "my client maintains that the marriage registration was obtained through deception." The judge held up her hand. "Counselor, your client was recorded explicitly discussing his plan to deceive his wife. Are you suggesting he should benefit from his own attempted fraud?" By the time the judge delivered her ruling, David's perfect facade had completely shattered. The marriage was declared valid, the property transfer upheld, and his attempts to contest them were dismissed with prejudice. Furthermore, the judge added, "I'm referring the evidence of financial misconduct to the district attorney's office for review." Outside the courtroom, Margaret attempted one final confrontation. "You've destroyed this family," she hissed, stepping into my path. "No, Margaret," I replied calmly. "Your family did that all on their own. I just made sure everyone could see the truth." Walking away from the courthouse, I felt lighter than I had in years. Not because I'd won, though that was satisfying, but because I'd finally stood up to the people who tried to diminish me. 3 months later, I sat on my patio, sipping coffee and reading the morning news. David had pleaded guilty to financial misconduct, accepting a plea deal that included restitution. Sarah had moved to another state, presumably wiser about trusting married men with convenient stories. Jessica had gone surprisingly quiet on social media, her usual boasts about family loyalty conspicuously absent. My phone buzzed with a message from Maria. Final paperwork filed. It's officially over. I smiled, thinking about the journey that had brought me here. The house had been redecorated, every trace of my old life with David replaced with choices that were purely mine. The garden, which Margaret had always criticized as too modern, was thriving under my care. You know what's funny? I said to Maria over lunch later that week. They thought they were so clever, planning to leave me with nothing. They never realized they were teaching me exactly how to beat them at their own game. Sometimes the best lessons come from our worst teachers, she replied with a knowing smile. As I drove home that evening, I passed David's new apartment, a stark downgrade from our former life. He was carrying groceries inside, looking older and tired. For a moment, I felt a twinge of, not regret, exactly, but recognition of how differently things might have gone if he'd just been honest. But that wasn't my concern anymore. My story wasn't about revenge or even justice, really. It was about refusing to be a victim in someone else's plot. About standing up and saying, not this time. I parked in my driveway, and looked at the home I'd fought to keep. The sunset painted the windows in shades of gold, and through them, I could see the life I'd built for myself, free from manipulation and lies. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do isn't fighting back. It's being prepared, being patient, and letting people face the consequences of their own actions. They had underestimated me, seeing only what they wanted to see, the quiet, accommodating wife who would step aside without a fight. Instead, they got me, the real me, and that had made all the difference. The end. Let's keep our marriage a secret for now, Marcus said, carefully folding our new marriage certificate and sliding it into his briefcase. It's better for my career. I stood in the courthouse hallway, my simple white dress suddenly feeling too tight. We had been married for only 20 minutes, but already, Marcus was treating it like something to hide. I'm Olivia, 31 years old, and I had just become Mrs. Walker, but apparently no one was supposed to know. Marcus and I had been together for 3 years before he suggested a small courthouse wedding. No guests, no celebration. It'll be romantic, he said, but now I wasn't so sure. Of course, I said, forcing a smile. Whatever you think is best. Marcus smiled, kissed my cheek, and checked his phone. I've got a meeting. Dinner tonight? Then he walked away, looking perfect as always, while my heart felt anything but. 2 weeks later, I was organizing our home office when I found something shocking. A stack of fancy wedding invitations in Marcus's desk drawer. You are invited to the wedding of Marcus James Walker and Victoria Bennett. I stared at the invitation. The date was 3 months away. Marcus, my husband, was planning a wedding to someone else. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Meeting running late. Don't wait up. I smiled. No problem. Take your time. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to scream. Instead, I made a plan. The next morning, I met with Diana, a lawyer friend. I showed her everything. Our marriage certificate, the wedding invitations, suspicious texts. Her eyes widened. He's marrying someone else while legally married to you. That's illegal. I nodded. What can I do? Diana smirked. The real question is, how much trouble do you want to cause? Over the next few weeks, I played my role perfectly, the loving, trusting wife. I never questioned Marcus's late nights or sudden weekend trips. Meanwhile, I gathered more proof. Victoria was 25 from a wealthy family, and Marcus clearly thought she was a better match for his career. You're handling this well, Diana observed. I shrugged. Marcus thinks I'm naive. Let him keep thinking that. As June approached, Marcus became more anxious. He was juggling 2 lives, and it was catching up to him. He started making mistakes, leaving wedding details on his laptop, taking calls from Victoria when he thought I wasn't listening. One night, he sat me down, looking serious. Liv, I think we need some time apart. Oh, I said, keeping my face neutral. I just think we rushed into this too quickly, he continued. We want different things. I understand, I said softly. Relief filled his face. You're amazing, Liv. I knew you'd understand. We can keep this private, right? I smiled. Of course, Marcus. Everything will be handled exactly as it should be. That night, he packed a bag and left, probably heading straight to Victoria's. As soon as he was gone, I texted Diana. He took the bait. Time for phase 2. Marcus thought he was in control. But on June 15th, his perfect plan was going to explode in his face. The weeks before June 15th felt like a carefully planned game. Marcus had officially moved out, acting like a regretful husband who needed space. Meanwhile, I gathered more proof, including recordings of his phone calls about the wedding with Victoria, completely unaware that I had placed a legal recording device in our home office. Through social media, I learned that Victoria's family was going all out for their daughter's perfect day. The wedding was set for the luxurious Grand River Hotel, with over 300 guests attending. The irony wasn't lost on me. Marcus, who insisted on a secret courthouse wedding with me, now wanted a grand public celebration. Diana kept me updated. Everything's ready, she told me. The police are on standby. Are you sure you want to do this publicly? I nodded, thinking about all the nights Marcus had lied so easily. He wanted a big audience. I'm just making sure he gets one. 2 days before the wedding, Marcus called. Liv, I hope you're okay. I know this must be hard. I cut him off. I'm fine, Marcus. Actually, I've been thinking about what you said, and you were right. He sounded surprised. I was. Completely, I said. Sometimes people just aren't who we think they are. He had no idea how true that was. On the morning of June 15th, I dressed in a sharp blue suit, applied my makeup with a steady hand, and picked up the manila envelope full of evidence. At 11:30 a.m., Diana met me at the hotel lobby. The officers are in place, she whispered, ready. I thought about Marcus's lies, his arrogance, the way he dismissed me like I was nothing. More than ready. We walked toward the ballroom, where wedding guests chatted excitedly. A coordinator stopped us. I'm sorry, but this is a private event. I smiled. Oh, I know. I'm here for the wedding. She frowned. Your name? Mrs. Walker, I said. The bride. Her face paled. That's impossible. The bride is Miss Bennett. Diana stepped forward, handing over her business card. There's been a mistake, but not on our part. We need to speak with Marcus Walker immediately. Moments later, chaos erupted. Security was called. Then the police arrived just as planned. Marcus was pulled from the groom's suite, his face turning pale when he saw me. Liv, he stammered. What are you doing here? Hello, husband, I said loudly, making sure everyone could hear. I thought I should attend your wedding. After all, we're still legally married. Gasps filled the room. Victoria's father stormed forward. What is the meaning of this? Diana handed over the evidence. Mr. Bennett, Marcus Walker married my client 2 months ago. He is now attempting to commit bigamy, which is a criminal offense. Marcus turned red. You can't prove anything. I pulled out my phone and hit play. His own voice filled the room, discussing wedding details with Victoria while admitting he was already married. Victoria stood frozen in her wedding dress, tears running down her face. Her father looked furious. Diana turned to the officers. I believe it's time. The police stepped forward and arrested Marcus, reading him his rights. The guests whispered in shock. Victoria's mother tried to comfort her, while Mr. Bennett was already calling his lawyers. Diana touched my arm, ready to go. I glanced at the chaos Marcus had caused. The lies, the betrayal, the shattered wedding. Yes, I said. I think my work here is done. As we stepped outside, Diana asked, why didn't you confront him sooner? I smiled. Because Marcus always cared about appearances. It was only right to let him face the truth in front of the people he wanted to impress. The sunlight felt warm on my face. For the first time in months, I felt free. Marcus had tried to keep me in the shadows. Instead, his lies had been exposed in the brightest light of all. Exactly where they belonged. The aftermath of Marcus's failed wedding unfolded like a carefully orchestrated symphony. Within hours, the story had spread through both our professional circles. Marcus, the master manipulator, found himself facing not just legal consequences, but the complete destruction of the carefully crafted image he'd built. Victoria's father, as I learned through Diana, was pressing charges for fraud beyond the bigamy charge. Apparently, Marcus had convinced the Bennetts to invest in several business ventures that were starting to look suspiciously like a Ponzi scheme. The DA is very interested in the evidence we gathered, Diana told me over coffee a week later. Those recordings didn't just catch him admitting to the double marriage, they caught him discussing multiple fraudulent schemes. He was using the wedding to secure more investments from Victoria's family. I wrapped my hands around my coffee cup, absorbing the information. And Victoria? Devastated but grateful, surprisingly. She sent a message through her lawyer thanking you for stopping her from making the biggest mistake of her life. Apparently, there were red flags she'd been ignoring. I knew all about those red flags. The constant need for privacy, the mysterious business meetings, the way he'd twist situations to his advantage. I'd seen them all, but I'd chosen to see them through the lens of love and trust. Never again. Marcus tried to contact me from jail, leaving messages with promises of explanations, pleas for understanding, even threats. I forwarded them all to Diana without listening to them. His words had lost their power over me. The divorce proceedings moved swiftly, given the circumstances. Marcus had no defense, no leverage, and no choice but to agree to my terms. The judge was particularly unsympathetic to his attempts to claim any marital assets. You tried to enter into a fraudulent marriage while already legally married, the judge stated flatly. You're lucky your wife isn't pursuing additional civil charges. My colleague Sarah caught me in the hospital hallway one morning, concern etched on her face. Are you really okay? After everything that happened? I considered her question carefully. You know what's strange? I am. For months, I carried the weight of his deception, planning and preparing for that moment. Now that it's over, I feel lighter. And it was true. The anxiety that had lived in my chest since finding those wedding invitations had dissolved, replaced by a sense of quiet strength. I'd faced the worst kind of betrayal and emerged stronger, wiser. 3 months after the wedding that wasn't, I received an unexpected visitor at my office. It was Victoria's mother, elegant and poised despite the obvious discomfort of the situation. I needed to thank you in person, she said, perching on the edge of the visitor's chair. Not just for saving Victoria from marriage to that man, but for handling it the way you did. You could have exposed everything much earlier, made an even bigger scandal. I shook my head. That wouldn't have served any purpose. I needed to make sure he couldn't twist his way out of it, couldn't make more victims. She nodded, understanding. Well, Victoria is doing much better now. She's focusing on her career, being more cautious with her trust. You taught us all a valuable lesson about looking beneath the surface. As she left, I thought about lessons learned. Marcus had taught me that some people view relationships as transactions, love as a currency to be traded for advantage. But he'd also taught me my own strength, my capacity for strategic thinking under emotional pressure. Deanna called me last week with news that Marcus had accepted a plea deal. He would serve time for both the bigamy and fraud charges. His career was over, his reputation destroyed. The man who had been so concerned with keeping options open now found all his options closed. Any regrets? Diana asked after telling me the news. I thought about that day in the courthouse, when Marcus slipped our marriage certificate into his briefcase like it was a shameful secret. I thought about the nights I'd spent planning, gathering evidence, preparing for the moment of truth. I thought about Victoria in her wedding dress, saved from a life of lies. No, I said finally. No regrets. Sometimes the best thing you can do with a toxic secret is bring it into the light. Now, 6 months after that fateful June day, I'm sitting in my newly redecorated home office. The space that once held so many of Marcus's lies has been transformed, much like I have. On my desk sits a small plaque Diana gave me. The truth has a way of rising to the surface. I've learned that love shouldn't require secrets, that trust once broken cannot be repaired, and that sometimes the strongest response to betrayal is not immediate revenge but patient, calculated justice. Marcus wanted to keep our marriage hidden in darkness. Instead, his deception was exposed in the brightest way possible. He thought he was the clever one, playing everyone for his benefit. In the end, his greatest mistake was underestimating the quiet strength of the woman he thought he could simply erase from his story. Sometimes I wonder if he ever truly knew me at all. The real me, not the compliant, understanding wife he thought he'd married, but the woman who refused to be made invisible. I hope he thinks about that during his time in prison. I hope he remembers that some secrets are too big to keep and some betrayals too deep to hide. As for me, I'm writing my own story now, and there's not a single secret in it. David texted, "Don't wait up, working late again." I looked at my phone, a small smile forming. His location showed he wasn't heading to his office. He was going to his other house in Oakwood Heights, the one he thought I didn't know about. I'm Anna Porter. For 3 years, I've watched my husband of 15 years live a secret life, thinking I was too naive to notice. The clues were everywhere: suspicious credit card charges, whispered phone calls, and business trips that didn't add up. But David underestimated me. "You're just a housewife," he'd say when I asked about our finances. "You wouldn't understand." What he didn't know was that before I became a housewife, I worked in forensic accounting. I left my job when our daughter Sophie was born, but I never lost my ability to follow the money. Sitting in our living room, I opened my laptop and checked the bank statements. Another large transfer to an account I had already traced. David thought he was smart, hiding money through his company. He had no idea I had been tracking every transaction, every lie. My phone buzzed. Sophie. She was away at college. "Mom, did you know Dad was in town last week? My roommate saw him with some woman and a little boy at the mall." I took a deep breath. "Really? That's interesting. He told me he was in Chicago for a conference." "Mom, is everything okay?" "Everything's fine, sweetie. Focus on school. I've got this handled." I closed the message and pulled out a thick folder filled with bank records, property documents, and photos. 3 years ago, when I first got suspicious, I hired a private investigator. That's how I found out about Maria, a young executive at David's company, and their 5-year-old son, Thomas. At first, it crushed me. 15 years of marriage and he had another family. But instead of confronting him right away, I watched and waited. I wanted to know everything. I learned how he met Maria during a company retreat, bought them a house, set up trust funds, and spent weekends with them, pretending to be on business trips. He even gave Thomas his grandfather's middle name, the same one he refused to give Sophie because it wasn't sophisticated enough. The front door opened. David walked in, loosening his tie. "Hey honey, rough day at the office," he said, kissing my cheek. He smelled of unfamiliar perfume and faintly of bubble bath. "I bet it was," I said, closing my laptop. "How's the Miller account?" He launched into a long story about meetings and deadlines. I watched him lie, noticing how his left eye twitched, a habit I'd known since we met. "You seem distracted," he said. "Just thinking about something interesting I learned today," I said lightly. "Did you know Oakwood Heights has one of the best school districts in the state? Thomas must be doing well there." David froze. His face turned pale. What are you talking about?" I pulled out a photo, him, Maria, and Thomas at a school carnival. "He has your eyes," I said, but his mother's smile. "Anna, I can explain," he stammered. "It's not what you think." "It's exactly what I think," I interrupted. 3 years, 4 months, and 12 days. That's how long I've known. Every lie, every dollar you took, every weekend you spent with them instead of us. I have it all documented. David collapsed onto the couch, his confidence gone. "How? Why didn't you say anything?" I stood gathering my folder, because I needed to be sure what kind of man I married. And now I am. I walked toward the stairs, then turned back. "Oh, and David, don't bother checking our accounts tonight. You might find some surprises." His eyes widened in panic. "What did you do?" I paused at the top of the stairs. "Nothing yet. But don't worry. Everything is perfect." As I shut our bedroom door, I heard him scrambling to make calls. My phone buzzed. A message from my lawyer. "Everything is in place. Should we move to phase 2? I typed one word. Perfect. This morning, I woke up to find David's side of the bed empty. He had spent the night in his office, making frantic phone calls and trying, and failing, to access our frozen accounts. I could hear him pacing downstairs, his footsteps heavy with stress. I took my time getting ready, carefully applying my makeup and slipping into a crisp white blouse and black pencil skirt. Today was important. Today was the day I had been planning for 3 years. When I came downstairs, David was waiting at the kitchen counter, looking exhausted. "Anna, we need to talk," he said, his voice rough. I know I made mistakes, but we can fix this. I poured myself a cup of coffee, stirring slowly. Like how you fixed things with Maria? Buying her a house and moving our money into secret accounts. His face darkened. You don't understand. It was about protecting our assets. Maria's house, Thomas's trust fund, it was all just business investments. I let out a short laugh. Business investments? That's your excuse. I pulled out my phone and played a recording. David's voice, telling Maria he would leave me soon, that she and Thomas were his real family now. You recorded me? He sputtered, his face flushing. That's illegal. Not when you're having these conversations in public places. The park where you meet Thomas, the restaurants where you celebrate secret anniversaries, all legal. David gripped his coffee mug, his hands shaking. What do you want? Money? I can work something out. I don't want your money, David. I want justice. I pulled out a folder and set it on the counter. These are copies of financial records proving you've been moving our joint assets into private accounts. Accounts that, as of last night, are frozen and under investigation for fraud. He lunged for the papers, but I stepped back. Don't bother. These are just copies. The originals are with my lawyer, the bank fraud department, and your company's board of directors. His face turned pale. The board? His voice cracked. You sent this to the board? Of course. They deserve to know what their CFO has been doing with company funds. His phone buzzed. He grabbed it desperately. As he read the message, all the remaining color drained from his face. They're calling an emergency meeting. I'm suspended pending investigation. He looked up at me, realization sinking in. How long have you been planning this? I took a sip of my coffee. Remember 3 years ago when you told me I wouldn't understand finances because I was just a housewife? That's when I started. Every lie, every transaction, every secret, I documented it all. Maria, he started. Already knows, I cut in. She got the documents this morning, including proof that her house was bought with embezzled company funds. She's probably trying to reach you right now. Right on cue, his phone rang. Maria's name flashed on the screen. David stared at it, frozen. You should answer, I said. She'll want to know why her accounts are frozen too. He stumbled out of the kitchen, his voice panicked as he picked up the call. Maria's frantic voice echoed from the other room. My own phone buzzed. Sophie. Mom, is it true? Did Dad really have another family? I had prepared for this moment. Yes, sweetie, but don't worry. I've made sure you're protected. Check your email. I sent you something important. David returned, looking lost. Maria's threatening to sue me. The house, the trust fund, everything's frozen. Anna, please, we can figure something out. I gathered my things. No, David, we can't. But don't worry. You're good at managing things, aren't you? As I walked to the door, he called after me. Where are you going? I turned back. The man standing there wasn't the powerful, confident person who had once belittled me. He was a desperate fraud watching his world fall apart. I have a meeting with the board, I said. They're very interested in how you've been using company funds for your personal life. You can't do this to me, he whispered. I'm not doing anything to you, David. You did this to yourself. I'm just making sure everyone knows the truth. I opened the front door, then paused. Oh, and one more thing, he might want to call your lawyer. Mine will be in touch soon about the divorce. I stepped outside into the bright morning sunlight. Behind me, David stood in the doorway of what he thought was his perfect life. Phase 2 was complete. Everything was going exactly as planned. Everything fell apart for David just as I had planned. Within a week, he was officially fired as CFO. The board's investigation found even more fraud than I had uncovered. His career was ruined. Maria, terrified of losing everything, turned on him. She sued him, claiming she had no idea where the money came from. The house he bought for her was seized as part of the fraud case. Sitting in my lawyer's office, I reviewed the latest updates. The divorce is moving quickly, Jessica, my attorney, said. With the fraud charges and his legal troubles, he can't fight it. And Sophie's trust fund? I asked, though I already knew. Completely safe. You moved it before all of this started. She won't lose a penny. I nodded, relieved. Sophie had always been my priority. David had failed her as a father, but I never would. Surprisingly, Sophie took the news well. I always knew something wasn't right, she told me in a video call. He always missed important things, got defensive about his phone. I just never thought it was this bad. I'm sorry you had to find out like this, I said. Don't be, Mom. You protected us. You're the strongest person I know. Her words meant everything. A month later, David asked to meet. We sat in a quiet coffee shop, the same one where he used to meet Maria. The irony wasn't lost on me. I lost everything, he admitted, looking older. The board is pressing charges. Maria's suing me. She won't let me see Thomas. His voice cracked. Actions have consequences, David, I said. You made your choices. He shook his head. How did I not see it? I thought I was so clever, keeping my secret life. But you saw everything. You didn't see it because you didn't want to, I replied. You underestimated me. You thought I was just a housewife. That was your biggest mistake. He looked at me, eyes red. Is there any chance? No, I cut him off. The divorce will be final next month. You should focus on your fraud charges. As I stood to leave, he called after me. I really did love you once. I turned back. No, David. You loved the version of me that didn't question you. But I was always more than that. You just never noticed. 6 months later, I sat on my new apartment's balcony, watching the sunset. Sophie was home for spring break, studying at the table behind me. The divorce was final. David pleaded guilty to fraud to get a lighter sentence. Maria moved away with Thomas. Mom? Sophie called. Dad's lawyer emailed me. He's trying to appeal his sentence. Let him, I said. The evidence isn't going anywhere. She joined me on the balcony. You know what's funny? He never thought you'd figure it out. He always treated you like I was just a housewife. I smiled. Some people only see what they want to. Your father saw someone who wouldn't question him. He never looked deeper. His loss, Sophie said, hugging me. Oh, and I got an A on my forensic accounting midterm. Guess I take after my mom. I laughed, holding her close. Life wasn't perfect, but it was honest. No more lies, no more pretending. My phone buzzed with a message from Jessica. Final restitution papers filed. Everything's done. I typed back one word. Perfect. Looking out over the city lights, I realized I had lost a husband, but gained something more valuable. Self-respect, my daughter's admiration, and proof that I was stronger than anyone, especially David, had ever imagined. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's moving on. And that's exactly what I had done. Where are my dogs? Emma's phone buzzed with a call from her mother-in-law, Patricia. Her voice was smug. Those useless dogs are gone. I did you a favor. Now you can get proper ones from a breeder. Emma's heart pounded as she gripped her desk at the vet clinic. What did you do with them? I took them to a shelter while you were at work. Honestly, having rescue dogs is embarrassing. What will people think? Max, Luna, and Bear weren't just pets. They were family. Max, a German Shepherd mix, had been left tied to a pole in the rain. Luna, a pit bull with one eye, had been rescued from a dogfighting ring. Bear, an old golden retriever mix, had been abandoned after his owner passed away. Which shelter? Emma asked, already opening her laptop. Patricia laughed, not telling. You'll just bring them back. What Patricia didn't know was that Emma had put GPS trackers in the dogs' collars after she accidentally left the gate open last month. She checked the app. The dogs weren't at any shelter. They were scattered in different locations. Her coworker Sarah walked in. You okay? Patricia gave away my dogs. Emma pointed at the screen. But look where they are. Sarah frowned. That's the old factory district and a highway rest stop. What is she up to? Emma grabbed her keys and texted her husband, David. Your mom took the dogs. Tracking them now. Meet me ASAP. David replied instantly, Wet it too. She's gone too far. Patricia had moved in 6 months ago after her divorce. Since then, she had tried everything to get rid of the dogs. Leaving doors open, dropping chocolate on the floor by accident, and nonstop complaining. David arrived, furious. Where are they? Emma pointed at the map. Not shelters. What if she gave them to people who might hurt them? David pulled her into a hug. We'll find them. And Mom is moving out. They split up. David went to the rest stop, Sarah to the railway station, and Emma to the factory. At the warehouse, a rough-looking man stood outside, smoking. He eyed Emma. You lost? My dog is here. Black pit bull, one eye, she said firmly, showing him a photo. She has a tracker, and I already told the police. His face changed. I don't want trouble. Some lady paid me to keep her here for a few days, to teach someone a lesson. She's inside. Emma rushed in. Luna wagged her tail frantically, tied to a pipe. As she freed her, a message from David popped up. Got Bear. Locked in someone's garage. Mom paid them $200 to keep him. Then Sarah texted, found Max. Some teen was walking him all day. Noel told him it was for a surprise party. Emma's hands shook with anger. Patricia hadn't just dumped the dogs, she had hidden them on purpose. Another text from David. Taking Bear home. We need to talk about Mom. This ends today. Emma agreed. Patricia had finally crossed the line. She wanted control, wanted to prove she could take away what mattered most, but she had made one big mistake. She underestimated just how far Emma would go to protect her family, human and canine alike. Taking a stand. When I pulled into the driveway with Luna, Patricia stood on the porch, arms crossed. Her smug expression disappeared when she saw the dog. How did you? She started, then quickly recovered. Emma, you're making this harder than it needs to be. Those dogs are beneath our family status. I stared at her. Our family status? You mean the status you lost in your divorce? The one that forced you to move in with me, the daughter-in-law you hate. Her face turned red. How dare you? I was trying to help. David deserves better than living with these strays. A car pulled up behind me. David stepped out with Bear. His voice was sharp. You mean the dogs that helped me through my depression? The ones that make Emma happy? Those strays, Mother. Patricia hesitated. Darling, you don't understand. I had a surprise planned. My friend's poodles just had puppies. Save it. David cut her off. We found all 3 dogs. We know you paid people to hide them. What were you planning to tell us when we couldn't find them? Patricia's confidence wavered. She hadn't expected us to track them so quickly. Sarah arrived next, bringing Max. Our dogs, finally reunited, wagged their tails as Patricia stood stiffly on the porch. This is ridiculous, she snapped. I was just trying to make you see reason. The people I paid were only supposed to keep them for a week. A week? I stepped forward. You gave our dogs to strangers for a week. Do you know how dangerous that was? Nothing would have happened, she insisted. I was careful. The man at the factory owed me a favor, and the woman with the garage is a friend from church. The factory? David's voice went cold. You left one of our dogs at a factory. Patricia stammered. I had to make sure you couldn't find them too soon. By the time they came back, the poodles would be ready. You mean by the time we thought they were gone for good? I said. You paid strangers to hide our dogs, hoping we'd move on. Patricia flinched. When you say it like that, it sounds terrible. David laughed bitterly. You mean the trust fund you lost? The country club membership you can't afford anymore. That's status. Patricia's face crumpled. You don't understand. I needed control. I finished. Since you can't control your own life, you tried to control ours. The dogs huddled close, sensing the tension. Luna pressed against me, while Max and Bear stood beside David. David's voice was firm. You're leaving. Today. Pack your things. But where will I go? Patricia's voice rose. You can't throw me out. I'm your mother. You're the woman who stole and hid our dogs, I said. We have GPS proof of where you took them. We have witnesses who confirm you paid them. Do you want us to call the police? Her face went pale. You wouldn't dare. Try us, David said. You have 3 hours to pack. After that, we're changing the locks. Patricia stormed inside, slamming doors as she packed. I knelt to hug our dogs, the relief hitting me all at once. David sat beside me on the grass, wrapping his arms around us. I'm so sorry, he whispered. I knew she was difficult, but I never thought she'd go this far. The GPS saved us, I said, stroking Max's fur. I never thought we'd need it, to protect them from her. Sarah crossed her arms. You know this isn't over, right? She won't just leave quietly. I watched Patricia's shadow move past the upstairs windows. I know, but this time, we have proof. She can't talk her way out of this. The next few hours were tense as Patricia packed, making sure to slam every door. But as I sat with my dogs, I felt stronger. This wasn't the end. Women like Patricia didn't give up easily. But today, we stood up to her. And sometimes the family you choose, especially the ones with fur and wagging tails, is more loyal than the one you're born into. 3 months after Patricia's dramatic exit, life had settled into a peaceful rhythm. The dogs were thriving, no longer walking on eggshells in their own home. David had installed security cameras around the property, a necessary precaution given his mother's tendency for dramatic gestures. We'd heard through family that Patricia had moved in with her sister in Colorado, telling anyone who would listen how her son and daughter-in-law had cruelly thrown her out. But the GPS data and witness statements told a different story, one that kept her from attempting any legal action against us. One quiet Sunday morning, as I sat on our porch watching the dogs play in the yard, a familiar car pulled into our driveway. My heart skipped a beat when Patricia stepped out, looking thinner and more subdued than I remembered. The dogs noticed her immediately. Luna and Max moved to stand guard on either side of me, while Bear watched cautiously from the yard. Their protective instincts never failed to amaze me. "Emma," Patricia said softly, stopping at the bottom of the porch steps, "may I speak with you?" I noticed she wasn't trying to come closer, respecting the boundary the dogs had created. "David's not home," I replied. "I know. I came to talk to you, actually." She clutched her purse tightly. "And to apologize." Those weren't words I ever expected to hear from Patricia. I studied her face, looking for signs of manipulation. "Go on." "My therapist." She paused, seeming embarrassed. "After everything happened, my sister insisted I get help. The therapist helped me see some things about myself, about why I did what I did." The dogs remained alert but calm. They'd always been good judges of character, and right now, they weren't showing signs of distress. It wasn't about the dogs, was it? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Patricia shook her head. No, it was about control. After the divorce, losing my status, my friends, I felt powerless. Taking control of your lives, your home, even your pets. It was my way of feeling powerful again. She wiped a tear. It was wrong. All of it. I remained silent, letting her continue. "Seeing how far you went to protect them," she gestured to the dogs, "it made me realize something. You didn't just save these dogs once when you rescued them. You keep choosing them, keep protecting them, every day. That kind of loyalty, it's what I should have shown to my own family." Luna had relaxed slightly, her tail giving a tentative wag. Even she could sense the shift in Patricia's energy. "I've been volunteering at a shelter in Colorado," Patricia continued, trying to understand. "To make amends, I suppose. Last week, I helped reunite a lost dog with its family. Seeing their joy, I finally understood what I tried to take from you." I stood up, walking down the porch steps. The dogs moved with me, a furry honor guard. "Why are you really here, Patricia?" "To say I'm sorry. To ask if there's any way to start rebuilding what I destroyed. Not just with the dogs, but with you and David. I've lost so much already. I don't want to lose my son too." Looking at her now, I saw something I'd never seen before. Genuine humility. The perfectly coiffed, controlling woman who had tried to orchestrate our lives was gone, replaced by someone who seemed to finally understand the damage she caused. "It won't be easy," I said finally. "Trust, once broken, takes time to rebuild. But if you're serious about making amends, about respecting our boundaries and our choices—" "I am," she interjected quickly. "I know I don't deserve another chance, but I'd like to try. Maybe we could start with short visits. Supervised, of course. I'd like to properly meet the dogs, learn their stories." Bear, always the most forgiving of our trio, had wandered closer to Patricia. She remained still, letting him approach on his own terms. "We'll talk to David," I said, "but no more schemes, no more manipulation. One wrong move, and that's it." Patricia nodded, watching as Bear gently sniffed her hand. "Thank you, Emma, for giving me a chance to make things right." As I watched my former adversary cautiously pet our senior rescue dog, I realized that sometimes the path to healing comes from unexpected places. Patricia had tried to tear our family apart, but ended up learning what made it strong. Unconditional love, unwavering loyalty, and the courage to protect what matters most. Our dogs had taught us all valuable lessons about forgiveness, boundaries, and the true meaning of family. They were never just dogs. They were the heart of our home, the catalyst for necessary change and living proof that second chances, when earned, could lead to beautiful beginnings. The GPS trackers remained, though. Some precautions were worth keeping, even in times of peace.